With the rampant racism in the 60s, you helped Sammy Davis Jr. out. Talk about that.
Well, Sammy was uneducated and grew up in the ghetto, and he worked with the Will Maston Trio. So it was the Will Maston Trio, then it became the Will Maston Trio with Sammy Davis, then starring Sammy Davis, and then it was Sammy. Sammy was enormously talented and obsessed with the sound of the applause. And we did things with Sammy Davis that nobody had ever seen before. So Sammy is a large part of my most wonderful, warm, happy successes. And Sammy, he came on, and boy, oh boy, was he the most talented person I think maybe in show business was Sammy, and I had fun with him.
Talk about buying him a house.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what happened was Ciro's was on the Sunset Strip, and Sammy wanted to buy a house that had belonged to Judy Garland. It was up the hill behind Ciro's, but you couldn't sell a house to a black person at that point. It doesn't sound possible today, but it was then. And Sammy saw this house he wanted to buy, and the only way we could buy the house is I bought the house. Well, I was making $250 a week, and we were going to buy this mansion up in the Hollywood Hills. So we bought it in my name, and so I bought that. The only way you could buy the house is if he sold it to a white person. He could not sell to a black person. So I bought the house in Sammy's name, and of course, and then the problem was the house was right up the hill from Ciro's. So I was managing Ciro's, and what happened is we'd do the first show, and Sammy would invite everybody in the club to come up to visit his house. So all the audience would leave Ciro's and go up to see Sammy's house. I had such fun with Sammy. Boy, what enormously talented. He did everything. Sang, danced, played instruments, and he died too early.
He did, and the tribute that you produced for Sammy, I was in radio at that time, and I got to the press room early. I got myself a seat in the front row because Sammy meant a lot to me when I was a kid. I read Yes I Can. I grew up in a white suburb, and I just wasn't exposed to a lot of diversity. But Yes I Can was like really instrumental in my young education. And so I wanted to see Sammy. I think we all knew that he wasn't going to be with us too much longer. So I got myself in the front row, and when he came into the press room, he was standing right in front of me, and I said to myself, just snapshot this moment because it's extremely special. And so thank you for that.
I had tried to sell a special with Sammy Davis, and I couldn't sell it because Sammy was not a huge star at that point, and selling a special was not easy. But I sold this special, and came back from the sales thing. I was thrilled, right? And they announced that Sammy had just discovered that he had throat cancer. So his agent called me and said, George, you have a problem. I don't know if Sammy can do this show because he's had throat cancer. So I went to see Sammy, and I said, Sam, look, here's the problem. I sold this show. We're going to do this show because when we announced we're going to do a Sammy Davis special, everybody in the world wanted to be on it. Mm-hmm. And so I said, Sam, you're going to have to be there. He said, oh, don't worry. He says, I'll be there. I said, okay, now don't ask me to make an announcement. So Sammy was doing the show. And in the show, we did Greg Hines, who was one of the greatest tap dancers of all.
Phenomenal.
So Greg Hines, I said, now when you do your dance, we have put these shoes, Sammy's shoes, red shoes, underneath his chair. So after you dance, give him the shoes. He said, I can't do that. Sammy said he doesn't want to go on. I said, don't make me hurt. Give him those shoes. So Greg did his number, finished the number, took applause, and I see him walk off stage. And I'm standing here going, I'm telling you. So he goes back out, does some more tap dance, and then reaches down and gives Sammy the shoes. And when the audience saw those shoes and Sammy putting the shoes on, the audience went crazy. And Greg says, do you want to do a little shine on your shoes? Sign on your shoes, you know. And Sammy said to him in a voice he could barely hear, he said, make it easy on yourself. Dying of throat cancer and getting up to dance with Greg Hines. And they did a challenge dance. You ought to run that clip. They did a challenge dance, and one did a thing, and then the other one did a thing, and each getting more and more difficult steps. So finally, Sammy did an unbelievable combination, and Greg started to dance and just said, "Forget it," and threw it.
Oh,
Knees and kissed Sammy's shoes.
Oh.
Sammy was one of the most talented performers ever. And when his roots were, he grew up very poor, uneducated, but he managed to educate himself and became a superstar and did more
The
benefits.
Will Maston Trio was great. They're all in all these old movies, and he was like 1.5 feet tall.
Oh,
and
he was a
watching
baby.
those, he was unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, he was a delight and one of my dear friends. And he died too soon. And he died. It had to do a lot with smoking and with alcohol.
Yeah.
But Sammy lived at a very fast pace, and Sammy lived more life in his life than people 100 years had lived.
it felt like it was a life of extremes in every direction. But
Yeah, he never went to bed. He never wanted to sleep, and he would stay up all night, and he loved to party. And I would look much younger today if it had not because of my relationship.
You also.